Hello, this is Up Your Game, coming to the community of office politics champions. I'm your uncle, Olatunji Shobodu. And as our custom is, I have a nugget for you again this morning. Or perhaps, you're watching in the afternoon or some other time. Well, here is a nugget for you this morning. I want to say a few things about making a powerful impression at work. How do you make a powerful impression at work? The imperative of making a powerful impression at work. Let me state right away that you want to progress in your career and you should progress in your career. But you should take responsibility because nothing is going to fall on your laps just like that, except you are still at the relatively junior level. But if you have your eyes on the top, on the topmost top, then there are things that you must do. You must be businesslike, you must be intentional, you must have your eyes set on the top, your eyes set on specific goals, which you must take responsibility to pursue. But let me make something clear. No one gets to the top by being one of the Joneses, so to speak. No one gets to the top by doing what everybody else does. All right. No one gets to the top without pursuing a strategy of differentiation. Failure to pursue a strategy of differentiation means that there is no way of suggesting to the powers that be that you are worthy of special consideration or special attention, as the case may be. So, you must pursue a differentiation strategy. And one of the ways to do that is to make a powerful impression at work. So let me ask you, what impression do you make at work? Are you mindful of that? Or you are just walking like everybody else? All right, pursuing your target, keeping to your mandate. All right, everybody hopefully is doing that, or at least the majority are doing that. But the majority don't get ahead, just as you know. There isn't enough space on top for the majority. If there was enough space, then maybe that strategy would work. So you have to go beyond that. You have to go the extra mile, if we may put it that way. And so you have to think very carefully of how do you make an impression that is so powerful, it stays with your people, it stays with the people that matter, and it stays with them for long. It not only stays with them, it's a positive impression. It's a signal that you are an asset to the organization and you are one that they need to watch so that they never lose. That is the challenge that I'm posing to you this morning, saying, don't approach your work, don't pursue this career the way you have been doing. All right? Don't measure yourself by what others are doing. If you must, then you must be challenging yourself to distinguish and differentiate yourself in a way that makes you visible, that makes you an attraction, that conveys the fact that you are a clear asset to the organization. So you need to make an impression, a powerful impression. How can you do that? How do you really do that? And it may not be such a big deal to achieve. All right. There are many ways of doing that. I will share with you one of the ways I did that. And it worked for me while I was still in my banking career. a couple of many years ago, actually. And, I was always conscious about the way I presented myself, the way I carried myself. I was very conscious about the way I dressed. I was always immaculately dressed. I was mindful of my color combinations. I was mindful of this choice of suits that I wore and the choice of shirts I wore, the choice of ties I wore, the choice of shoes I wore, the choice of cufflinks that I put on. Why? Because in my environment, all right, you really have to look the part. The banking professional, all right, who is well dressed, who can appear anywhere at any time. And I used to pride myself in the fact that I was ready to make a customer call any day with any senior official. The way I dressed, the MD could look at me and say, okay, join me. We need to go and see this person. We need to go and see that person. Or I could be sent. All right. And if I went, you would think that I was the MD, sheer just by the way I dressed. Now, let me caution, I didn't buy expensive suits. I didn't break the bank in order, to accomplish that kind of status, and to make that kind of impression. I stayed within the limits of what I was earning. And I did this from a relatively, you might say middle management, relatively. All right. Yes, of course, I've always known that it was important to dress properly and dress well and then dress professionally the moment I got into the banking, career. So I did get acknowledged. If you were speaking about me at the time in the bank, one of the ways that people would describe me is about the way I dressed. I had people, who would wonder at times, albeit jokingly, why even at 5 p.m. in the evening, I was still looking spick and span. All right. I mean, they used to wonder. Somebody said to me sometime, he said, but I mean, you and I, did you not resume very early in the morning like I did? But, I mean, here it was just a few hours to closing and you are still looking like somebody who just, who was just about to resume for work. But all of these didn't happen out of carelessness. They happened because I was very conscious about that. And by the way, it didn't take me a lot of effort. It wasn't as if trying to ensure that I presented myself well, it was affecting my job. It wasn't affecting my job. I was committed to producing excellent quality of work. And I was noted for that as well. That was a different platform, all right, for pursuing this differentiation game. But I must tell you that I was exempted from layoffs when there were restructuring that was done just because of the kind of profile, that I had, the kind of projection. I was nominated to head certain positions precisely because of this characteristic. All right. One of the very senior people once was asked once, how come you guys, prefer this person, referring to me, to be the one to head this unit when I was not even up to the level, that had been prescribed as head. I was still, I think, a step lower or so, but I was the choice. And one of the things that, that person said at the time, I wouldn't ever forget it, was that was the kind of person who could relate to the kinds of people, all right, the kinds of clients that you would have to talk to in that if you were heading that portfolio. He said anytime you saw him, he was well dressed. Anytime you saw him, you would mistake him for a very senior person. All right. You know, so, but when you look around, I mean, look around you, look around your environment, even look at yourself. Something as little as the way you dress, how conscious are you about it? You know, how conscious are you? Many of us have taken some of these things for granted. You would see some people, you know, and look at the shirts they're wearing, look at the ties they're wearing, look at the way they're dressed to work. You know, you just know that they are not taking things seriously. And they want to become very senior people. When are you going to start looking the part? When you get to the position. If that's your strategy, you won't get there. Why? Because you will not have made the kind of impact that will convince those who take the decisions, who appoint people into those positions, that you have what it takes. And I'm using this as a relatively flimsy, you know, way of making a powerful impression. But it worked for me. It worked powerfully. It worked all through. All right. And that was just one of the ways, you know, I tried to make that powerful impression. Another area that many of us take a lot for granted, unbelievably, is the quality of our communication. I listen to some people and I listen to the way they speak. I listen to the way they pronounce words. And I wonder really how far they would go. The unfortunate thing is that many of them are not even conscious that these are little things, or seemingly so, all right, that determine whether or not you get ahead of the pack at work, whether or not you make the kind of impact that will make people want to put you in higher positions. Because if you neglect things as simple as that, not making the effort to speak well, to speak quality, you know, English, to pronounce words well, all right, to be on top of your communication game. I mean, your guess is as good as mine what will happen to you. And that's another area where you can really make a powerful impression. When you speak, do people want to hear what you're saying? When you speak, do people listen? When you speak, do people wonder, wow, what kind of perspective is that? I never thought about it that way. But you're probably there, you make contributions, people don't even comment on it, or they don't think twice about it, or it's just like the kind of thing that anybody else would say. And you want to get ahead on that basis. No, it's not going to work. So there are ways that you can make a powerful impression at work. And I want to challenge you to begin to think about that. You want to get ahead, you have to differentiate yourself and do so powerfully. And that means you have to think about ways of making powerful impressions. All right. Doing things that will be associated with you and you alone, and that people will love, that they will see as an asset, that they will hate to forget about you. I did that. It worked for me. And I'm saying to you that it's time that you look in that direction. All right. So that your career can take the kind of shape that I'm sure you desire it to take. My name remains Olatunji Shobodu. I'm your anchor on the Office Politics Champions group. And if you are not one of us, check the description area, join us. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. This is your nugget on Up the Game for this week. I'll see you again next week by the grace of God. In the meantime, let's talk office politics comes up on Wednesday, 1 p.m. West African time, you want to join me there. I'll be speaking, we'll be spending a lot more time, by the way. It's a 45 minutes business session where we can have lunch together virtually. And while we're at it, we're speaking on very important aspects of office politics. You're building political intelligence, you're becoming politically savvy, and of course, you're building your capacity to navigate your career path successfully. That's what Let's Talk Office Politics is about. You can ask questions about anything, particularly some of the experiences you're having right now at work, or certain, moves you want to make, you want counsel. That will be available on that program. Wednesday, I'll be speaking on landmines that you need to avoid in the game of office politics. Landmines you need to avoid at work. That's what I'll be speaking on. Promises to be interesting. Join me. So thank you. Have a pleasant week. God bless you. Bye bye.